We will do some uniform talk on the show today, based on the tweet the team put out yesterday afternoon. Mark Ein joined me late yesterday on my podcast. You'll hear that conversation. And Andrew Brandt will join us on the show at noon because July 1st was the official day of the new way in which college sports will account for roster compensation. Yeah, there is a salary cap now in college sports. Andrew Brandt at noon to explain it. This from Bert. Bert writes, Kevin, so let me get this straight. After one season, you have concluded that Jayden is better than Lamar and Mahomes, or is there equivalent? Let the kid actually win something before we crown him. Lamar is the perfect example of how hard it is to win the Lombardi. You can be the two-time MVP and still have nothing to show for it. You have to beat everyone, even yourself. By the way, I don't think anybody said Jayden is better than Mahomes, just to, or even they said, the career comp could end up becoming Mahomes. This from Dave. Dave writes, and this is all off the conversation that we had the other day about Pro Football Focus's second-year quarterbacks, where they gave all six of those quarterbacks, Jayden, Caleb Williams, J.J. McCarthy, Bo Nix, Drake May, and who am I forgetting at this point? I don't have the list in front of me. The six. Which one did I just forget? Caleb was first, Jayden was second, then Drake May, then Penix Jr., then McCarthy, then Nix. There you go. There's all six of them. And we were talking about, taking the comps, ceiling comp and floor comp. For Jayden, the ceiling comp that they had was Lamar Jackson. The floor comp was Kyler Murray, meaning this is the best case. This is the worst case after what we saw in the first year. And we took it to extend it beyond just current players and said, give me the player you think he can become when his career is all said and done. What's the ceiling for Jayden? Who's the comp? And then what's the worst case? What's the floor when the career is completed? So a ton of correspondence on this. Dave writes, what is your issue with the Lamar comp? If Jayden's 2025 looked like Lamar's 2024, we're talking about 5,000 yards of offense and 45 combined touchdowns to just 4 picks. We're talking about the number one offense in the league, 12 wins, and the MVP. Come on now. I'd take that every year if I could. Playoff success for Lamar is the only knock, and I don't think PFF was implying Jayden could not win a championship. He's being compared to a two-time MVP by age 28, who is the most terrifying offensive player in the league. He is terrifying. Yes, I think that's a pretty good ceiling. Thanks. Love the show. So this can actually be an interesting conversation, blending these two emails together. First of all, it's interesting, Dave, that you write about, what's wrong with the Lamar comp, because a year ago, before Jayden had taken one snap, when there were discussions of comps, and Lamar was a major comp for Jayden, I remember many of our fans, callers, etc., when we did this topic, saying, no, I don't want it to be Lamar. And I was like, what's wrong with Lamar? This is a year ago. What's wrong with Lamar? He's a two-time MVP. He's one of the best quarterbacks in the league, and he is going to go down as one of the best, if not the greatest, dual threat quarterbacks in NFL history. So I do remember feeling the way you did, Dave, a year ago, but now we have a full season under our belt. We watched something pretty special last year, and we watched Jayden be a much more advanced quarterback, especially as a passer, than Lamar was as a young quarterback. Really, Lamar's breakout year as a passer was last year. You're talking about year 2 of Todd Monken, And Lamar looked great. He was more comfortable. He's processing the release. The anticipation was the best of his career, but that's year 7. Jayden had it in year 1. I'm a big Lamar Jackson fan, just so people know. And I think people who have listened, you guys who have listened, I mean, I've rooted for Baltimore and Lamar to get over the hump for the last few years. I'd love to see Baltimore get to a Super Bowl and win one with Lamar Jackson. He is so beloved in that organization, and he's got a hurdle to clear. And that hurdle keeps getting higher every postseason that he does not advance, to a Super Bowl. The opportunity with the Chiefs at home 2 years ago in the AFC Championship game, and then last year, while he did play well in Buffalo, 2 turnovers were very hurtful to the overall effort. He has not played great playoff football. He is 3-5 as a starter in the postseason. He is 10 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, 3 fumbles. So he's got 10 turnovers, 10 touchdowns. His completion percentage is barely 60%. He hasn't been great in the postseason. So, yeah, I think, Dave, for you, one, I felt the same way that you feel today last year, but I feel differently now because I think that Jayden's career, 10-plus years down the road, the ceiling for it is better than what we've seen from Lamar Jackson to date. Now, Lamar may have an unbelievable back half of his career. Let's just say the final 5 to 7 years of his career. He's 7 years in. Let's just say that he's halfway through his career. He's had injuries. A 14-year career for a guy like Lamar Jackson with the way he plays would be pretty impressive. And Lamar, I may change my mind in 3 years when Lamar's got 2 more MVPs and 2 Super Bowls and has become a lethal in-the-pocket passer and developed into that. But as of now, I see Jayden's career comp after 10-plus years of a career is something better than what I've seen from Lamar in his first 7 years. But Lamar's been a great quarterback. I mean, he's already had a Hall of Fame career, right? I mean, you're talking about a guy that's played 7 seasons, has 2 MVPs and an MVP runner-up, 4 Pro Bowls. I think he's a Hall of Famer already with 2 MVPs, but maybe not. Maybe he's got a little bit more to go. Now, back to what Bert said. So let me get this straight. After 1 season, you've concluded that Jayden is better than Lamar and Mahomes. Nobody said that he was better than Mahomes. People said that his career ceiling could be Mahomes, which would, by the way, be the equivalent. And Bert does right, or is their equivalent. Let the kid actually win something before we crown him. Lamar's the perfect example of how hard it is to win the Lombardi. You can be a 2-time MVP and still have nothing to show for it. So this is an interesting topic because I do feel sometimes, for me, it's like, am I crowning him too early? Is 1 season enough to feel like that's who he is? That's what we're going to see as long as he's healthy for the next 10-plus years? Is it enough? It's probably not enough 99 times out of 100. So why are we doing it? And when I say we, I do mean me, near or at the top of the list of believers, of worshipers. I'm in the congregation screaming and then passing out the hat to see how many people are with me. And there are plenty of people dumping money into the hat. Plenty of you are with me on Jayden. Now, part of this for me, I don't think there's any doubt about it, is that I was predisposed to believing that he was going to be great. And all of you that have listened to the show know how, optimistic I was about Jayden Daniels coming out of LSU. I mean, sure, there's the element of wanting to be right, but with respect to this conversation, it was really more about, me feeling like there was a chance he was going to take the league by storm, not to the level that he did. I did not predict that. I predicted that he'd be great and that the team would win enough games to make the postseason in his rookie year. Some of that in the moment was tongue-in-cheek, but I really was very optimistic about Jayden. I just thought every time I watched an LSU game, especially that final year, I'm like, I am watching the next superstar quarterback in the league. Please take him. Please take him. So part of that is the way I felt going in. I understand that. So I want to dial it back a little bit, but I don't want to dial it back a lot because the year we watched last year was the greatest season for a rookie quarterback in NFL history. And beyond that, it was the way he did it, bringing his team from behind to win games in walk-off fashion multiple times in the final seconds, in the final minutes. Like, we got to the point last year where we understood, and he needed to do it in the postseason. Remember, we talked at the end of the regular season. All right, we've learned a lot, but we haven't learned everything. We've not learned how he will perform in the team's biggest games. And by the way, that included some big regular season games. And then, he went and had the game that he had against the Falcons to clinch the playoff berth. But then the real one and done, how does he play in the one and done, backed into a corner, when you move on, lose, your season's over? How will he perform there? Because for a lot of quarterbacks, that's a big-time judge. I mean, he had this great regular season, but if he went into Tampa and threw 3 picks and looked terrible and they lost 34-10, we'd still be faced with that question and that hurdle to clear only after 1 year. And he's going to have more opportunities had he not done it last year. He didn't get to the Super Bowl. Okay, so that's the last hurdle. But he's got a 2-1 playoff record, and he's got a 2-1 playoff record playing at an extremely high level in all 3 games. So I certainly in 2 of the 3. Okay, I mean, he didn't play poorly in the championship game. He threw for 255, a touchdown, had that pick. Took a couple of sacks, rushed for like 50-something yards. He was not as good as the Tampa and Detroit games, but they were also in a bind down, 2 scores or more for much of that game, especially from the end of the first half on. So he cleared the hurdle of how is he going to perform in win or go home playoff moments. The answer is incredibly well. So the question for all of you, 301-230-0980. We'll keep it to the way Bert asked the question. Have we crowned him too early? 301-230-0980. I think the way to sort of think about that question is really, is 1 season enough to feel like that's who he is going to be every year until he's too old to play anymore? Assuming health. All of these conversations about football and players and performances, they're all with the assumption of health. I mean, it's the biggest determining factor in games and seasons and careers is availability and having enough players available. But is 1 season enough to feel like that's what we're going to get forever? That's what we're going to get for his entire career, which is why the ceiling comparables the other day were so high. I had him as Steve Young. Many of you had him as Mahomes. I think, 1 or 2 called in and said the GOAT. That's the ceiling. But is it too early to feel that way? Have we crowned him too quickly? 301-230-0980. It's the Kevin Sheehan Show on the Team 980, theteam980.com. Don't forget, you can stream us on YouTube and watch the show at the 980 YouTube page.
Cloran to the bottom of the screen. 2nd and goal. 10 seconds. Daniels fires. End zone. Touchdown. Jamison Crowder. Preposterous. 5 turnovers and the lead with seconds remaining.
Yeah, that was the masterpiece last year, the comeback against Philadelphia. And it was, a masterpiece, as I've said before, that had imperfections because he threw a bad interception in the fourth quarter. But to overcome 5 turnovers against a team on a 10-game winning streak with clearly in that moment the best defense in the NFL to score 36 points and beat them 36-33, he was just amazing. Although, truth be told, the next game against Atlanta, what he did in that second half and in that overtime almost exceeded it. Jayden Daniels had, by some metrics, some measurements, more than most, the greatest rookie season by a quarterback in NFL history. Pro Football Reference has something they call approximate value. It's an AV number that's assigned to every player in every player's season. It's an attempt to attach a single number to every player's season since 1960 based on a lot of different criteria. And Jayden's last year, his AV was 20. That's first out of 132 rookie quarterbacks since 1960 that played and started as a rookie. Second on that list is Cam Newton, whose 2011 season he had a 19. But you're talking about, Jayden Daniels along with Newton, Russ Wilson, Dak Prescott, RG3. Those are really among the greatest rookie seasons of all time. CJ Stroud had an excellent rookie season as well. We know that he was just the 6th rookie quarterback in NFL history to lead his team to a conference championship game. But the others, to be fair, Sean King in 1999, Ben Roethlisberger in 2004, Flacco in 2008, Sanchez in 2009, and Brock Purdy in 2022 were leading great all-around teams that were, for the most part, led by their defense. The Tampa team, the Pittsburgh team, the Flacco Baltimore team in 2008. Not the 2012 team that Flacco was legitimately outstanding in the postseason and their defense wasn't as good. Sanchez, clearly a defensive dominated team. And Brock Purdy had an unbelievable run game and defense in 2022. Jayden, out of the quarterbacks that led teams or were rookie quarterbacks on teams that made championship games, is the only one that strapped the team to his back and took it to a championship game. So, their passer rating numbers were Jayden's all-time. AV numbers, rookie quarterback led, deep runs into the postseason. It's the greatest rookie season ever. And I'm asking the question based on a couple of emails, including this one from Bert, who said, so let me get this straight. After one season, you have concluded that Jayden is better than Lamar and Mahomes, or is there equivalent? Let the kid actually win something before we crown him. Lamar's the perfect example of how hard it is to win the Lombardi. You can beat a 2-time MVP and still have nothing to show for it. This off of the conversation of ceiling and floor for Jayden the other day that we had. So have we crowned him too early? Is one season enough to feel like we've seen enough? This is who he's going to be. He's going to be everything he was as a rookie and even better as the surrounding cast improves, as he matures, although he played like a pretty mature quarterback last year. I think it is early 99 times out of 100, but I don't know that it is in this case. I think still the only thing that concerns me about Jayden Daniels is the exact same thing that concerned me last year, and that is his frame one in which it'll hold up and he'll be available for 15, 16, 17 games a year consistently throughout his career. We saw him get hurt in a game last year. Saw him get hurt twice in a game last year, but ended up missing the majority of the game against Carolina, the game in which Marcus Mariota came in and played extremely well. I don't think we have. I know we have, but I think this is the exception to the rule, so I'm going to continue to do it. 301-230-0980. Have we crowned him too early? Max, what do you say?
So there's a lot. I'm old enough to remember Patrick Mahomes' rookie year and the feeling I got when I watched him do the things that he did on the field. And it was
you mean year 2? It was his second year.
Yeah, correct. The yes,
first year that he played.
His breakout year, yes.
Yes.
Yes. So, and just by watching him, I got a lot of those same feelings when I watched Jayden, because there's very few guys who play with the IQ that he does, with the movement that he does, with just the speed in general that he does. And it's like every time throughout the season we got into like a 4th and short situation or something like that, he bailed this team out on like 3rd and 15, 4th and 2, anywhere on the field. He was able to get them out of it. So it's, I won't say it's too early to crown him as like one of the top quarterbacks, but I do need to see more in order to like dry the cement. You know what I mean?
I think that's a really, really good way to kind of view Jayden. And people are going to say, well, that's Mahomes. Okay, well, that first year of him starting, not his rookie year, as we know. By the way, I've said this a million times. I think if Andy Reid had pulled Alex Smith and put Mahomes in when they were struggling at one point in that season in 2017, I think Mahomes would have been great as a rookie. I don't think he needed to sit the entire year, but no one will ever know. But the year 2 that he had, 50 touchdown passes, 12 interceptions, 5,000 yards, the MVP. Let's also not forget, they got to the AFC Championship game and lost that game. They lost to the Patriots at home in overtime, 37-31, I think it was. Now, he threw for many more yards. He threw for a lot more touchdowns that particular season. His rush yards, though, weren't anywhere near.
He also had Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce on his team, too. So that helped quite a bit.
Yeah. I mean, Jayden had, over 860 something yards rushing, so 600 more yards rushing than Mahomes did, and was much more of a factor as a dual threat quarterback. But I like that, because in Kansas City, you could have easily, after that season, said, have we crowned him too early? The problem, the one difference is that season was one of the greatest seasons a quarterback's ever played, not as a rookie, but as a quarterback at any point in their career. So there is that. But sure. I like that, because I guarantee you there were people that were saying, well, just hold on here. It's just 1 year. And then there were others that were saying, yeah, but if you watch that year and you saw what he did, and you saw what he did in the clutch during those games.
The eye test, man.
Yeah.
There's no replacing it.
All right. Let's get to the phone lines. 301-230-0980. 301-230-0980. Have we crowned Jayden Daniels too quickly, too early? Let's start with our guy Chad in Nashville. Chad, go ahead.
Hey, Kevin.
Chad,
so what's going to happen is they're going to do a documentary on the Washington Redskins and the Commanders. And it is going to go through 25 years, 30 years of the transition of this team and the downfall and the absolute just travesty of losing this franchise. Not losing, but you know what I'm talking about. And then here comes Jayden Daniels. That documentary, 75% of it, the filler of the whole freaking documentary, will be nothing but Jayden Daniels. And here's why. What he did last year, I don't think we will see probably again for a while, even if you look at quarterbacks coming out. I guarantee you. Jay Gruden, you've had Jay Gruden on. You've had Shanahan on. And they have talked about things that you can't fake, things that you can't get. You can maybe get a little better, but you'll never be elite at. He showed last year, check mark, check mark, check mark, check mark.
Yeah.
He can do it. He can be elite doing it, and he's got the attitude to be able to sustain it. And that's why I was saying, man, I got to see. It's that part of that departing, we got to get out of that mode of kind of a fear of things are going to go wrong. And as of after the season, a couple months, I don't know if you can convince me that we're not looking at the second coming of a Tom Brady or the next Patrick Mahomes. That you just can't convince me now that we're not. And to me, as a Redskins fan, saying that, for us to be able to say that is insanity. And to even Tommy on your podcast, how many times has he said this magic isn't fake? This magic's real.
I think it's real. I do, but it doesn't mean both things can be true. That what we saw was real, but we've also crowned him too early because it was also
right?
just 1 year. I'm with you, though. You know how I feel. I feel like what I watched last year was borderline flawless. Now, the coaches will tell you, the footwork can improve or this can improve a little bit, but even they're stretching and reaching to find things that he didn't do well. He checked every box as a rookie.
Yep.
He can throw it short, quick game. He can throw it medium. He can throw it. Remember all the concerns about he can't throw the ball over the middle. He takes too many sacks, his pressure to sack percentage. He checked all of the boxes, the deep ball, from the pocket, on the move, creating, off schedule, as a runner, designed runner, option runner, scrambler, in the clutch. Team needs him to deliver on a big drive late in the game. In games in which if you lose, you go home. He checked every box. Now, he was given the opportunity to check every box because they won 12 games, which he was largely responsible for. So you got into some of those big games. That's the other thing that came out of last year. And it's going to pay off in a big way is
with a bad defense.
These guys played massive games.
Yeah, with a bad defense. And he every other quarterback that's gone to an NFC championship game has had a top defense. Look at those quarterbacks. They weren't great. Thanks,
Chad. Kev. Appreciate it. I've tried to think what could go wrong in this upcoming season. Well, they're clearly playing, at least on paper right now, a much tougher schedule. Teams that are much better offensively than the teams they played last year. And that's very important because the defense struggled last year against average to less than average offensive football teams. And if you end up not getting off the field and giving up too many points, and now the pressure, just like it was last year, on Jayden to put up 30 plus, 28 plus, to drive him down the field late, etc., will that hold up against better quarterbacks, better teams? We'll see. But in terms of the only thing I can come up with that could go wrong is either he gets hurt or legitimately the supporting cast up front, skill positions just isn't anywhere near good enough. And it wasn't great last year. And it looks better this year, just along the offensive line. It looks better this year. But what if, Tunsil got hurt? What if, Biotish, remember what happened when Biotish had a game off? What if Terry, doesn't get there until late and isn't the same player? What if Debo is out of shape? What if the running backs really were the problem last year? Even if that's the case, I still think that he and Kingsbury would scheme up enough offense and he would be productive enough for the team to be competitive. Let's go to Kendall. Kendall, thanks for holding. Have we crowned Jayden Daniels too quickly?
Hey, what's up, Kevin? In
Kendall,
my eyes, no, man. Everybody's made some great points. I'll add that outside of every box that he's checked, outside of every extraordinary thing that he's done, he's made people better. So the kid is one of one, man. He's one of one, and Is he going to be less prepared this year and in the coming years than he's been? No. Is he going to be less accurate? No. He's going to only get better. Now, will he have some areas where team scheme, different things that he has to, but he's so prepared and he has such a great work ethic and attitude that I mean, in my eyes, I mean, I have him clearly at number 5 in the league, but I'm not taking any quarterback, Mahomes included, over Jayden. I want Jayden, and I would dare say maybe not Kansas City, but Baltimore, Buffalo, and Cincinnati. If they had an opportunity to get just a 1-for-1 swap, they'd consider it if it was serious. It was because the kid is that good, man. So, I just can't wait to see what he does in the future.
Yeah, I mean, like, this is where, like, you have to take a step back and say, well, maybe we aren't crowning him too early, because if you took every team in the league right now, Buffalo wouldn't swap, Kansas City wouldn't swap. I mean, I don't think Cincinnati would swap. Baltimore, Lamar for Jayden, they probably wouldn't swap. And then who? I mean, you're going to tell me the Eagles wouldn't swap Jalen Hurts for Jayden Daniels? The Cowboys, the Giants, the Goff is older. Minnesota doesn't know with McCarthy. I mean, Jordan Love, come on. I mean, I think he's a really good quarterback. Baker Mayfield, you're not going to swap for Jayden Daniels. Stafford at his age, you're not going to swap with Jayden Daniels. Purdy, Murray, Herbert, I don't know. I think the Chargers, given what he's done in big games versus what Jayden's done in big games, I think you'd swap if you're a Chargers fan, your quarterback for Jayden. Denver, Knicks, definitely. Trevor Lawrence, sure. Who are we forgetting? Anybody? Drake May? I think so. I think there are 4 teams for sure that probably would say thanks, but no thanks. But they actually might consider it. Kansas City wouldn't. Buffalo wouldn't. Baltimore and Cincinnati might call a meeting to discuss it, but probably would stick with who they have. That tells you something. And I don't think that's crazy to say that basically of the other 31 teams, 27 would swap their quarterback for Jayden Daniels right now. Let's go to our guy, Junkyard Dog. Junkyard Dog, have we crowned Jayden Daniels too quickly? JYD, you there?
It's a 50-50 split. Simply because if we look at what he's done and what he can do with the proper things around him, yes, he can do it. He hasn't been crowned too soon. But we also have the factor that sometimes quarterbacks do regress some in their second year. It doesn't mean that they're bad quarterbacks or that they won't be continue to be great quarterbacks. But sometimes you see a regression simply because are they really focusing, or are they seeing what they really actually seeing something new from defensive coordinators out there on the field?
Yep.
Then we also have to look at this team. I know everybody loves the general manager, but to me, he's a little too slow for me. Because I don't think he's really looking at a sense of urgency of really putting the pieces around a quarterback that is on a quarterback-friendly deal, and then I'll let you go.
Thanks, JYD. Well, they did invest in one of the best pass-blocking left tackles in the game with multiple draft choices and probably, this time next year, a commitment to pay him. We're less than a year away from a commitment to extend him. So, they went out and got Deebo Samuel. I think they're trying offensively to add pieces around him for sure. I think defensively, that's where we'll find out. 301-230-0980, 301-230-0980. Have we crowned Jayden Daniels too early? Gee, G, what's up?
Nah, we ain't crowned him. Who and what are we crowning him? Like we are knowing that he's the best quarterback we done had in years because all the dudes that we done had, we done
Well,
seen
we're
his
crowning
assets,
him,
man.
many of us are, and I am, as already a top 5 quarterback in the league.
No, because
Elite.
and that's what he did. That's what he did last year.
Yeah, I understand that, but you asked, how are we crowning him? That would be an example of how we're crowning him. We've already called him after one season among the elite quarterbacks in the league. He's in that top tier of quarterbacks after one season.
And that goes back to our conversation last week, because our eye test showed us that. He put it out there on the field. He threw for 3,500. You know what I'm saying? 100 passing grade, man. Went to the conference championship as a rookie. Like we know what we seeing. Like we seen Kobe as a rookie. He only averaged 7 points a game, but we saw the greatness and flashes in that type of season. He won the dunk contest, had the star power. We saw that. But Jayden Daniels did much more than what Kobe did in his rookie year. So, no, we're not crowning him like as the greatest quarterback, but my eye test definitely shows me that he's a top 5, top 7 best quarterback in the league after 1 year. Like, that's not far-fetched, man. We done watched enough football to see the talent and what he brings to the table.
I agree with you, but part of the crowning, G, is also the conversation that we had the other day, talking about who this guy is going to end up being, the ceiling. And people were saying he's Mahomes. He might be the GOAT when he's done. I threw out Steve Young as the ceiling comp, first ballot Hall of Famer. So that's part of it too. Yeah. So look, people have gotten carried away. I don't want to describe it as carried away. We have talked glowingly about this player like we've never talked about a player. I don't think we talked about RG3 this way, even though RG3 had a special year. We knew he had some flaws in his game.
We done lived through the dookie for years. So I'm not letting Bert or nobody tell me not to be super excited off what I've seen, because I done watched doo-doo for the last few years. So I don't care if he's saying I'm crowning him too early. No, I'm excited because he shows me that the ceiling definitely could be Mahomes with multiple rings. And also my floor, because I ain't calling him, was Randall Cunningham, because Randall was a killer for years. Yeah. So I'm comfortable at that position. And we're not crowning him too early, Bert.
All right. Those of you who are on hold, stay there. Robert, Keith, Mike, Pauly. We've got a line open. Have we crowned Jayden Daniels a bit too early, just after one season? Phone lines open. 301-230-0980. Mark Ein next hour. It's the Kevin Sheehan Show on the Team 980 and the Team980.com.
All right, last night, the Portland Trailblazers let DeAndre Ayton go, and now he signs with a 2-year deal with the Los Angeles Lakers. Clayton Kershaw hits 3,000 strikeouts against the Chicago White Sox last night. He becomes the 4th left-handed pitcher to reach that milestone. The Nats, they split yesterday's doubleheader with the Tigers 1-1. The first game, a disaster right from the jump, with the Nats down 10 runs just after 4 innings. The second game, the Nats showed a little bit of life late in the 8th, tallying 6 runs and giving them a 9-4 lead to close out the game. Tonight, they will close out the series against the Detroit Tigers. First pitch at 6:45 on the Fan. Nats on deck with Charlie and Dave at 6:15. This update is sponsored by the Team 980 YouTube page. Just open the app, type in the Team 980, hit subscribe. Kevin Sheehan is live from 10 to 1 and Craig Hoffman from 4 to 7. Don't forget to like the streams and turn on notifications to stay up to date on all things DC sports. And that is what's trending.
Here's Jayden Daniels, end zone. It is caught for the touchdown. Zach Ertz takes Washington into the playoffs.
Against the Falcons on Sunday Night Football was insane. The runs that he had, the physical exhaustion. Remember Mariota coming out and helping him. Just amazing, throwing that touchdown pass on 3rd and goal to give Washington the 30-24 lead. Remember, this year, Atlanta would still get another opportunity with the football. Remember, the overtime rule has changed. 301-230-0980, 301-230-0980. We're asking a simple question. Look, we've been incredibly excited as a fan base, over the top complimentary, over the top discussing Jayden Daniels' rookie season. I say over the top. I mean, it's been just overwhelming discussion about how great he was last year, and the question is, have we crowned him too early? Is there, a feeling that one season is not enough to determine who he's going to be for the next 10? And I'm at the top of this list, man, with many of you. I think what I saw last year is the aberration. Like, this is the 1 out of 100 where it's not crowning him too early. Injury aside, because that's always a possibility. And he does have that frame that you're concerned about. You don't want him being the leading rusher in 10 games in this upcoming year. You don't want him to take some of the hits that he took last year. You want him to protect himself, and continue to improve in the protecting himself category. But I don't know. I think I watched last year as a lifelong football fan an absolute outlier in terms of a rookie season. And to me, it was without flaw. It would be one thing, like RG3's rookie season was sensational. And we were, beyond ourselves in discussing how great he was. But he had flaws. A, he could not protect himself to save his life. 2, he could not throw consistently from the pocket when he needed to throw. He was not a quick processing, read defense, pocket quarterback. Now, with Mike Shanahan and Kyle Shanahan as the coaches, I remember thinking, that'll come. He'll improve because they're as good as he can have. That's the irony about him essentially running the head coach and OC out of town, is that they were the best for him. I mean, they actually were the best you could have in the development of a young quarterback. Jayden didn't have any flaws last year, man. What were his flaws? He was a high-level, elite-level pocket passer, and he was not only an elite-level playmaker and runner, he was all-time elite-level. Vic, Lamar, in that category. Let's go to Paulie. Paulie, go ahead.
Big guy, how you doing, man? Hell to the W.
Yep.
So did we crown him too early? Hell yeah, we did. We crowned him too early, man. But you know what? I don't give a F. You know what I mean? Because it's well deserved. I'm gonna tell you the most impressive thing to me about it all is his 4th down composure, man. I mean, really got the tush push. We got Jayden Daniels.
Yeah.
Because we wasn't just getting first downs. He was throwing touchdowns on 4th down, running for touchdowns. I mean, running for first down. I mean, his 4th down composure and just being so cool and ice in his veins on 4th down, man. I mean, that's what impressed me the most about his season last year. So, yeah, did we crown him too early? Yeah, we did, but it's well deserved. And I ain't complaining about it. So, hey, the sky's the limit, man. And it's just great to be able to say that for our quarterback. Yeah, we crowned him too early.
The clutch, gene that he clearly has, the composure that he has in those moments, isolating it to 4th down composure is well done. I just, we talked about this play the other day, but the 4th and 11 run against Philly in the comeback. I mean, if he doesn't get that, if they don't pick up that first down, they don't win the game. Philly's got the ball up 13 in Washington territory.
What about
it's just
the fourth down pass to Terry against Cincinnati on Monday
yeah.
night? He missed,
that was a third down throw. There was a fourth down throw to McCaffrey on that drive, but the touchdown to Terry was a third down throw.
Well, regardless, he missed even one of them passes. Cincinnati come back down the field and score. So we wasn't stopping them.
No, we weren't on that game.
I mean,
yeah.
Right. So just his playmaking ability and what he did on fourth down, man. I think, like I said, Philly got the tush push. We got Jayden.
Thanks. Appreciate it. Actually, that fourth down throw on that final drive was to Ertz. Didn't he have a big throw in that game to McCaffrey in the Cincinnati game? Pretty sure he did on fourth down. I could be wrong. But the fourth down throw before the third down touchdown to Terry was to Ertz. Have we crowned Jayden too early? Keith in Clinton. Keith, thanks for holding. Go ahead.
Paulie make me sick, man. Paulie just took what I had to say. Basically, I was going to say, yeah, we crowned him a little too early, but basically same reason that Paulie said. But I really don't care because what he showed me out there on that field, I'm impressed with. The only thing that I will say is that how much of that credit do we have to give to Cliff Kingsbury? Because with that coach working with him and bringing him along slowly, because we were getting frustrated with all these old thinking quick screens, short screens, and everything else. He wouldn't go downfield. But then you see the whole season, he slowly took him downfield to build his confidence up. And then after that, my thing was, are we going to be the same if Cliff Kingsbury left? Would he be the same quarterback this year? Fortunately, he's back, so he'll have somebody still grooming him to go a little further. But also, last thing is his balls. Now you're gonna get mad at me on this one. The medium, the shorts. There's a lot of balls that I've been watching all these games through the offseason over and over. A lot of medium to short passes. Balls are really low. Now, am I wrong? Balls are really low, and like even the catch that we made against Tampa Bay, he stretched out. Titan stretched out to grab the ball. It was a good throw, but it's
so funny that you said that because I do remember some of those low throws. I also remember a couple of high throws early, but I think you're right. Yeah. But every quarterback, will have a throw that isn't exactly where it needs to be. Some of those low throws were purposeful. I'd have to go back and look at all of those. The Kingsbury thing that you started with. Let me just address that. Cliff Kingsbury was very important to Jayden Daniels in his rookie season. Mm-hmm. It's really hard to debate that. I think the thing that, would never enter my mind is that he was a Cliff Kingsbury, creation, because Cliff Kingsbury doesn't play on fourth down with that composure. He doesn't take the field and generate the kind of confidence that his team had, with 2 minutes to go down 4, needing a touchdown to win. There was the intangible stuff with Jayden isn't a Kingsbury creation. He was just way ahead of what typically young quarterbacks, are in terms of those moments. I mean, he was a clutch gene veteran as a rookie. It's hard to do. Thanks for the call. Everybody on hold. We'll do this another segment. The phone lines are packed. Have we crowned Jayden too early? Stay on hold. I'll get to you next segment.
Second down, they blitz again. Daniels, though, has some time. Lets it rip, floating it deep down the field, going for Brown. He's got it! A perfect throw to De'Ami Brown! Wow!
That, I'm assuming you came back with from the Detroit playoff game, the one over the shoulder that he laid right in there, right?
Of course, where De'Ami Brown had his eyes covered, yeah.
Yeah, that may have been the best throw of the entire postseason. We're asking the question, have we crowned Jayden Daniels too quickly, too early? You know, we certainly are optimistic. I am, that what I saw last year is going to be what we see for the next 10 and even better than that. I believe that. But we certainly talk about him already as if he is, you know, a top 5 elite level quarterback. And we've seen some rankings from outside this town that don't even have him in the top 10. So the question is, off an email from Bert, who suggested we may be crowning him too early. Do you think we have crowned him too early? And when I say we, I mean me, because I'm at the top of the list of overwhelmingly convinced that as long as he stays healthy, this is going to be a Hall of Fame kind of quarterback. That's crazy to say after 1 year, but I think this is the one guy. He's the greatest. He had the greatest season by many metrics in the history of the league as a rookie quarterback. 99 times out of 100, I'd say it's too early, but I don't know that it is too early with him. The number one concern last year is still my number one concern. Just got to stay healthy. Still has a frame where he, could take a big shot. He missed a little bit of time here and there in college. He missed a little bit of time last year. That's the one concern. Other than that, I can't identify a legitimate concern about his game. Let's go to Robert in Annapolis has been on hold, I think, the longest. Robert, go ahead.
All right. Well, you don't need me to tell you that 1 year is not enough of a sample to really draw conclusions on a macro level. But here's what Daniels did that the other great top-ranked quarterbacks didn't do. He actually saved the franchise. You ought to call him the savior. The Ravens, the Chiefs, the Bengals, they had been competitive before that quarterback came along. Maybe not the Bills. The Bills were down for a while before Josh Allen, so maybe he is in the same category. But that's what he really did. He's given the fan base this optimism. I mean, I know how it is to really like a player. I actually a team guy. I don't really focus on the players, but I understand your feeling for this player because of you haven't had the enjoyment of such a performance for a while. But what's really important,
I think it's beyond that, though, Robert. I'm not cutting you off. You keep Robert there, Max. I thought about that. I thought about, is it because of what we went through as a fan base that we just haven't had anything like this, and we're overreacting because it's been so long? I mean, I don't think so. Look, the savior of the franchise in many ways was was Josh Harris and the 20+ limited partners that put together a deal that paid Dan Snyder $6 billion, and he took it. He wasn't going to take anything less than that. That saved the franchise, or gave the franchise the opportunity to be a legitimate NFL franchise again. And then we got lucky, in year 2 of their ownership, and really year 1 where they had their imprint on it. The best quarterback in college was available to us at number 2. But I've thought about whether or not I'm so optimistic about him because there isn't anything that we were optimistic about. But remember, I was really optimistic about Kirk Cousins for a few years. Not in the same way, of course. But anyway, go ahead.
Okay, but again, that's fans attaching to players. Look at the situation with Terry McLaurin. Look how fans have attached to him and how they view him in terms of his relevance or importance.
That may be what you're talking about more than Jayden.
Okay, but that's what a lot of fans do, Kevin. Particularly younger fans tend to adulate certain players, connect to players rather than the team as a whole. But anyhow, let me
I know,
You got other
but
callers.
I was
What-
saying it
Go
because
ahead.
you connected it to the fan base's, PTSD. That what we've gone through, we're ready to, basically, attach ourselves to anything good. I think Terry is an example of that. I don't know that Jayden is, but go ahead, finish up.
But again, even with new ownership, if the team didn't start winning, it wouldn't have made all that much of a difference. It's just one
It
guy.
made
But
a big
here's the
difference right
important
from the beginning. We had a chance again.
Okay.
We were all going to be. I was going to be patient. I said I'm giving this plenty of time, benefit of the doubt for a while anyway. And year 2 they go to the NFC Championship game because they got the quarterback right.
But here's where you are now, and I'll close with this. What's important now is not what Jayden Daniels did in his rookie year. It's what he does in his sophomore year. Is he going to do what Dan Marino did or Manning or Lamar or some of these other guys who really bloomed up in their second year? Because, you can't live in the past. The only thing that matters to me in sports is the current. I don't even look to the future at my age. But so it's what he does this year that's going to be really the impact. And then next year is going to be what he does next year. That's just how it is.
Of course.
Thanks for taking my call.
Yeah. And then we added up at the end. You brought up, and, he's one of my all-time favorites, but I've heard a lot of this, sophomore slump, sophomore jinx, whatever, pointing to the CJ Stroud year. I actually thought Stroud wasn't the issue there. But, there are plenty of examples, and the best example of a quarterback who played a lot as a rookie and then in his second year had anything but a sophomore slump is Dan Marino. Marino played as a rookie in 11 games, started 9. He finished 3rd in the MVP voting after starting only 9 games as a rookie. And then in year 2 had the greatest season for that era, and it wasn't like there wasn't a close second, and it still to this day is one of the great seasons in the history of the game. So that was not, a step back second year, and there are lots of examples. You mentioned Mahomes and Jackson. Jackson did play several games as a rookie. Mahomes only played that season finale when they rested their starters. Let's go to Mike in Tampa. Mike, have we crowned Jayden too early?
Hey, Kev, it's actually Dominic in Tampa.
Oh, I'm sorry, Dominic. Go ahead.
Hey, how you doing, Kevin?
Good, Dominic. It's been a while. Hope you're well.
Yeah, thank you. So obviously, I'm gonna start with this because I know people are gonna say, he's a hater. But he's the greatest quarterback we've seen in this time, and I get that. But to answer your question, if the sample size to me is still too small. Okay, I think he's going to be great. I really do. But what if he goes into year 2 and he takes a step back, and he's not, and his turnover ratio, his interception ratio is more than his touchdown ratio, what the case may be, or something like that. Now people are going to start turning on him a little bit because we know how this fan base is. They turn on players like how they turn on women. It's just
well, I don't know about that analogy. I can't envision anybody turning on Jayden Daniels if his year 2 isn't as good as year 1. I'm not saying people won't. I think there will be a lot of told you so's that aren't saying anything right now. There will be a lot of people that will come out of the woodwork and say, I told you that he was going to have a sophomore slump. I told you that the rookie year was an outlier.
Sure.
And no one's really saying that. Nobody is.
Sure.
But you would have that, but I don't think they would turn on him.
I think turn is the wrong word, but I think they would kind of, like you said, I told you so. But also too, and I think it was your 2 callers ago that's talked about the coaching too. In your opinion, Kevin, if Ron Rivera is the head coach and it's his coaching staff, does Jayden Daniels have the season he does this year? I don't think so. I think Cliff Kingsbury has a lot to do with it. And again, it goes back to my point of I want to see more because it's almost certain that we're going to lose Kingsbury after this year. Not you lost your OC. Now can we really see? Is it you? Is it the coaching staff? Is it a combination? So to kind of wrap up my point is we just need to see more, in my opinion, and then crown him.
No, it's not unreasonable. I can't go down the path of saying that Jayden Daniels, and you didn't do that, but that Jayden Daniels is somehow a Cliff Kingsbury creation. There's no understanding of the talent of this player if you really feel that way. Not to mention the stuff that really can't be measured by someone who's not on the field. The delivery of fourth down after fourth down and the composure associated with that, the clutch moments, the leadership, the confidence instilled by his play. The off-schedule moments are not planned for. He was the best, along with Lamar and Josh last year, the best off-schedule, top 3 off-schedule quarterback in the game. That's not a Kingsbury creation. Did Kingsbury help, and was he instrumental in this season? No doubt. Would Jayden have had a great rookie season with Scott Turner? Yeah, I think he would have with Ron Rivera as a coach. With Eric Bieniemy, I don't know what that would have looked like. I think even he could have overcome Eric Bieniemy's offensive coordinator incompetence. I think he would have had a good season with me as an offensive coordinator. But would it have been as good as the Kingsbury season? Probably not. Certainly not if I were the OC. Kevin in Arlington. Kevin, go ahead. Have we crowned Jayden Daniels too early?
Well, I don't think so, Kevin. And just a couple things. First of all, you were on that, wasn't even the bandwagon. You just were assertive in your opinion early on, and you proved to be right. I knew he was special, but I always worried about the durability, and I'll get to that in a minute. But a couple of things. No rookie has come in to a team as bad as ours was and did what he did. I mean, think about Mahomes. He came to a team that was a perennial playoff team with Andy Reid.
Right.
The only 2 guys in the last quarter century plus that have come in and started winning right away, and they weren't necessarily rookies, but that matched what Jayden Daniels did in terms of winning, are Kurt Warner and Tom Brady, Hall of Famers. Tom isn't yet, but he soon will be, right? So, I mean, it's so unusual what he accomplished. And here's the scary part. I don't think we can pinpoint either the floor or the ceiling. And here's why I say that. That technology, that virtual reality training tool he uses that has made a meteoric rise in his performance, his ability to process, I don't think that gets enough attention at all. It's his discipline in using that tool to become just an unusually gifted, poised.
Yeah. There's something to be said for that.
I think it's huge.
Yeah. No doubt, especially as a passer, especially as, an in the pocket traditional when he's got to deliver on 3rd and 7 from the pocket. No doubt. I think the rest of it is just innate, talent. The feel for the game, the off schedule plays, the running, the elusiveness. That's, I'm sure VR has some hand in that, but that's just flat out instinctive.
Well, I only give it as much credit as I do, Kevin, because it seems like that's when his performance in college really took off, is when he started using that tool. Just one other thing real fast, and I'll let you go. What I want to see in year 2 is, regression. I don't know. What I want to see is he gets better at protecting himself. He got better as the season went along. I hope that continues. But the other thing is these defensive coordinators have had a lot of time to look at what he does, and it'll be just interesting to see how he adjusts to that as well. It's going to be a fascinating second.
Yeah, agreed. And, there's going to be so much more involved, too. It's going to be, are the teams that they're playing just better offensively? Did the defense, grow and improve? And because, against New Orleans and against Atlanta with Penix Jr., and we can go through the Giant games, et cetera, you were always in those games. My big concern going into this season is defense. And what if they get, outclassed by the other offense, and then you're into these 38-35 games every week? We had those last year, a lot of them. Thanks, Kev. Appreciate it.
And then we had the NFC Championship game.
Yeah.
Where we were totally
and I don't want them to look like that. That's for sure. All right. We'll do this one more segment. If you're on hold, stay there. We'll try to rip through them. Give me your opinion really quickly. so I can get through all of the other calls. Mark Ines coming up this hour. Kevin Sheehan Show, the Team 980 and the team980.com.
Can't get McCaffrey. We've only got 10 guys on the field. They're down in 7. This one is launched from McLaurin. He's got it. Touchdown. Touchdown, Terry McLaurin.
You know, when we do topics, the producer of all of these shows, in the case of this show, Max, will look for, any sound to come back into the segment with if it makes sense. And here we are on, 4 or 5 segments of taking calls on the question, have we crowned Jayden Daniels too quickly? And every single play that you've come back with has been an A-plus play. And I think I can come up with another. I mean, you haven't even played the Hail Mary yet.
Yeah, I was going to say, we could do this for like another 4 segments, and I'd
Easily.
probably still have plenty of content. Yeah.
The Hail Mary, the throw to Terry against Dallas, of 85 yards when the game was seemingly over. We're probably the throw to Terry against Baltimore in that tight corner of the end zone that was just a ridiculous throw.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, of course,
there
are plenty in that Tampa game in the postseason.
So many.
All right. Let's get to your calls. One more segment. So have we crowned him too early? Give me a yes or no, and give me 1 or 2 quick reasons why you feel that way. I want to get through all of these callers, and the phone lines are packed. We've got Mark Ein coming up. Let's go to Day in D.C. Day, go ahead.
Hey, what's up, Kevin? It's Bay. Hey, man,
Bay. It's Bay. What's up, man? How are you?
We didn't crown him too early. Listen around the league. The league is crowning him. The fans of other teams, they're crowning him. Did you know every time we won a game, we was in a game, they was scared. Every time we was down, they knew we were going to come back. This team believes in him. This fan base believes in him. There's no way we're not the only ones thinking like that. There's a lot of people afraid of us. And listen what Barry Slay said. He said, you cannot do nothing. You cannot play. You can't leave your man, because if you do, he got his eyes sealed down the field. He's a triple threat. And another thing I got to say, Kevin, I'm getting off. I think Andy Reid would trade for him, because
I do too.
That defense, the past 2 seasons, Patrick Mahomes looked almost like a regular quarterback. Thanks, Kevin.
All right, thanks. Well, Andy Reid. No. I'm sorry. I was thinking Philadelphia. No. They're never, 0 chance Kansas City would swap Mahomes with Daniels. I was thinking, and when you said Andy Reid, I just immediately went to Philadelphia, and I was thinking Jalen Hurts. Hurts, Sirianni, yes. Billy and Chantilly. Billy, go ahead.
Kevin, good morning. This is a fascinating conversation. I would say first, Cliff Kingsbury is a Jayden Daniels creation. So Cliff should tip out JD5 when he actually signs that new coaching contract, from my point of view.
You know the great thing about Kingsbury? Kingsbury would agree with you. Seriously, he's a very humble dude, and he knows what he has.
Look, is it too soon? Yes, it's too soon, Kevin. The rest of the league is they're behind. They don't know how good he is. I expect they'll catch up with JD5 this year after another probably 14-3 season, maybe 15-2. The guy is the future of football.
How are they catching up with him at 15-2?
The future of football. Other QBs are playing 21st century football. In my opinion, JD's playing 22nd century football.
Wow.
He will change.
We're 75 years away from that.
He has excess in every intangible. If I had one concern about JD5, it'd be that once he's crowned by the entire league and the entire nation, that Hollywood comes calling. They'll want him in movies. They're going to want him to
retires early, like Jim Brown did, and then he's a big star. I have 0 concern about that.
Listen,
you know why, Billy? He's not like this. His game is charismatic. He isn't necessarily. All right, let me roll.
Listen, neither is Caitlin Clark. She's not charismatic, but her game is.
There's something about Caitlin Clark.
Well, there's something about JD5. The resurrection.
I think it's his game as much as anything. I think he's Tiger-esque from that standpoint. It's more about the actual game itself. All right, let me move on. Oscar in Bethesda. Oscar, go ahead. Have we crowned JD too early?
Hi, Kevin. Nice to talking to you again. I spoke with you last year. I don't know if you remember about the promise that my son-in-law gave to his son, my grandson, and myself, that if the Commanders got into the Super Bowl, he would get us each a ticket.
Oh,
well,
right.
Who was the miracle? The miracle was Jayden Daniels. No way would the Commanders got into the final by beating Philadelphia in the divisional game. But Jayden Daniels definitely was the only quarterback I could think of that was going to give us a chance. And before the season started, nobody gave the Commanders a hope in hell that they could get there. But my goodness, he is definitely to be crowned. And I don't care what anybody else says. That is the quarterback. I mean, look at that Hail Mary against the Chicago team.
Yeah.
And how it was planned by him and how it was operated and how perfect he was with the throw. Oh, come on. I definitely crown him. And please, look, I remember I told you that age was against me. I'm please God going to be 90 in August. So I'm getting less years. I don't know how many.
You sound
available.
great.
But
you sound great, and it sounds like you're going to be around for a while, but you know what? You may not have to wait that long. We may be in that position in the next few years. I hope. I certainly hope so.
All my faith. I've got all my faith in Jayden, and with the team having been improved with the new parts that they've brought in, maybe it'll come sooner than later.
Thanks, Oscar. Appreciate it, man. Let's go to Mike in Bowie. Mike, go ahead.
Thanks for taking my call. Here's what I think. I wouldn't crown anybody until they win something. And I don't know what crown means. Crown means champion. So I would want to put that. But I do think about like what I've seen in the past, particularly in NFC East. I remember when Dak came out, Dak's best year was his first year when Zeke got 1,000 yards on first down only. And then I think about RG3. There was a crowning conversation, at the end of the season. I expected RG3 to come back and be amazing, but he wasn't. And, what I thought was like, that was a whole summer that defensive coordinators were able to game plan and to prepare and to teach to their staff. And this is what we're going to do. And then the next year was entirely different.
Well, he was hurt. He was hurt, and he didn't want to play the way he played his rookie year. He wanted all those plays stricken from the playbook.
Right. So, but still, I value professional teams that spend millions of dollars to beat somebody, and you have a whole league doing that. So then I think like, does Jayden have that ability to get past that? Like the way you've seen two quarterbacks, I think that are very similar to him, and I've never heard someone compare him to Lamar. And I've been comparing him to Lamar, like not exactly, but like to that level forever. So when I heard you say it, I felt a little vindicated. And I think people like
Lamar's been one of the comps for Jayden since he came out. He's been a consistent comp by a lot of people. Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna give you another comp. Donovan McNabb. Donovan McNabb used to always keep the play alive. And I heard someone say something the other day about him. Jayden will keep the play alive. He's like, I'm gonna pass it. I'm gonna put in someone he's got. And if I'm not,
You just gave two guys that Jayden already in 1 year proved he is a much better processor and pocket passer. Much better than either one of those two guys, especially Lamar.
Well, when they have the career of him, then we can have that conversation.
Yeah, of course. That's why we're asking, have we done it too early? I think that...
I would say no. I would say he's amazing. I think he's humble, and he knows it's important. He believes in God.
So you don't think we've crowned him too early?
No, I don't. I think he's the next great. I don't think he's going to change the league. I don't think he's going to do that. I think he's amazing. I think he's going to be Lamar status. I don't think he's going to be like someone that's going to change the game. I think he's going to go down as a Matthew Stafford, McNabb, Mahomes.
Let's not go McNabb. I mean, Stafford's going to, and McNabb's not a Hall of Famer. Stafford's a borderline Hall of Famer.
Look, I watched McNabb for a solid 10 years, get real close to the Super Bowl every year into the playoffs, and carry the team on his back. I didn't like him. I didn't want him. I'm not a fan of the Eagles, but I saw he was great.
Yeah, but you're comparing Jayden. You're saying we haven't crowned him too early, and you're mentioning guys, and McNabb's not in that class. His career's not in that class. McNabb's not a Hall of Fame quarterback.
I think McNabb, I don't know, then I think there's other quarterbacks in the Hall of Fame that had less of a run in a competitive era than McNabb. I thought he did everything that was good enough.
I'm not saying that he wasn't a good quarterback, especially with Andy Reid in Philadelphia. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying he's not in that category that you're thinking that Jayden may become. Just mentioning Matt Stafford's going to be in the Hall of Fame. Donovan McNabb is not going to be in the Hall of Fame.
Well, all right. Well, I have another question for you. The other day, I feel like also Kingsbury had a huge role. I heard like a couple years ago someone say one of the best things you can do for a quarterback is you have a young, smart, offensive coordinator that can teach him execution. I feel like they went hand in hand a little bit. I think at where Jayden's at
we've
now,
been talking about that. I got to get to another call. Thanks for the call. We've been talking about that. I think Cliff Kingsbury was phenomenal for Jayden, but I don't think Jayden was a Cliff Kingsbury creation at all. That's just not what you saw. You saw a perfect match with coordinator and quarterback, and there probably would have been other perfect matches. You don't think Kyle Shanahan would have been great for Jayden Daniels? You don't think it would have worked out with Andy Reid? There are plenty of offensive coordinators that it would have worked out for, but we had somebody earlier mention, look, in many ways, Jayden has created this incredible opportunity that may come Cliff Kingsbury's way when there was no guarantee that would happen after his stint in Arizona as a head coach. Let's go to Derek. Derek, go ahead. We're going to save Mark Ein for next hour. Derek, go ahead.
Hey, how you doing, Kevin? Nice. It's a first-time caller. So,
thanks, Derek.
Yeah, I enjoy you on the radio, too. I like it when you talk about basketball as well. Just as perspective, I'm 55 years old. I'm an Eagles fan, so I'll put that out there. I came here after college when I was 21, so I've been listening to this radio station for the better part of 35 years. And I've seen it with the Redskins and being bad, and what the last guy talked about is partly true as far as RG3 being a big hope there for everybody, And if you talk about Stroud as well, the reason I'm calling, though, as an Eagles fan, and I think you got family that are Eagles fans, right? I would never give up Jalen Hurts. He's been there for 4 years. He's been to 2 Super Bowls. He's won one. The other one, he would have been the MVP if they won.
You're right.
He played great. He played great. And anybody that wants to say that the running back, wanted for him and all that, well, I mean, he did his job. He threw for 250 yards. I think Troy Aikman did that in a few Super Bowls, So I would never trade Jalen Hurts. As far as your guy, he's good. That was the right pick, obviously. But to go along with him, you got the offensive coordinator, you got a new coach, you got a new owner. So I think all of that plays into how well the Commanders did this year. And actually, as an Eagles fan, I've enjoyed the rebirth because, it's a little bit more competitive.
Look, if you've been listening, I actually like Jalen Hurts. I liked him coming out. I'm a fan of Jalen Hurts. He's a leader. He's tough. He plays big in the Eagles' biggest games. He's not as gifted as Jayden Daniels, in my opinion. I think Jayden Daniels had a season last year and will have seasons in the future that Jalen Hurts will never have. So I do think that swapping it would be swapping both court. Look, you're factoring in a lot of the intangibles and what Jalen's done in the biggest games for you guys over the last couple of years and how you feel about that. And I would feel the same way because he was phenomenal in the loss in the Super Bowl against the Chiefs. Was probably one of the best games he's ever played. And last year he was great when it mattered in the postseason with a great defense and a great running back as well. But thanks for the call. I do appreciate it. Let's go to Rob in D.C. Rob, go ahead.
Foremost, I just want to let you know that you fair court called, people have run-on sentences, and then you put an Eagles fan on it.
Rob, your phone sucks. Put Rob on hold for a second. Let's go to Lap in D.C. Lap, go ahead.
Hey, what's up, Kevin?
Hey, Lap, what's happening?
Good topic, man. No, I don't think we jumped the gun in crowning this kid, man. He's special, man. I mean, if you look at all his clutch moments, you know what I'm saying, in the Eagles and the playoffs, and Just every game, man, it's just a wow you moment, man. It's just like he ahead of his time, and then some of those lists that came out, they don't want to really put a rookie up there, man, but man, he's special, man. And I told you in the draft I wanted either Michael Penix or Jayden Daniels. I was so glad we got Jayden Daniels. I told everybody just watch and see, because I got tired of this J.J. McCarthy stuff, even though I want to see what J.J. looks like this season. But all this Drake May and all this stuff, I just got tired of hearing that. So I'm just glad that Jayden proved everybody right, and we continue to do, man. So I'm looking for another big season. We're going to have a chance to win in every game with Jayden Daniels. Now, the pieces around him,
and by the way,
they improve.
Yeah. I was just going to say,
saying,
he proved a lot of people wrong.
ahead,
There were a lot of people that were off him coming out and said, he processes too slowly, pressure to sack percentage, can't make throws consistently over the middle of the field. There were some people that were not sure about Jayden Daniels. In addition to some of us who are fans who were sure, the guy that has gotten a lot of that stuff right, Merrill Hodge, came on and just said, special. Draft him, period, if he's there. Thanks for the call. Let's go to CJ in Upper Marlboro. CJ, go ahead.
Hey, Kevin. Good morning. Hey, listen, man, I don't think it's too early to crown him. He's not the best, but he's going to be one of the best. I think what's important to him is to bring back, I know this is not part of your call, to bring back Terry McLaurin. He's got to have all of his pieces together to anywhere reciprocate or resemble what he did last year. It's important that we get all the pieces back together. Don't play with this dude. Give him every tool that he needs, and we're going to be a lot much better. We're playing in a different division. I'm sorry. We're playing in the same conference, but we're playing a tougher schedule. So it's important to prove that this football team is for real, and we have a very, very special quarterback. And let's give him everything he needs to be successful. Thank you.
Thanks, CJ. Appreciate it. Back to Rob to finish it up. Rob, go ahead.
Hey, what's going on, Kev? Can you hear me now?
Hey, much better, Rob. Thanks.
All right. Yeah, because I was about to say, I was going off about you putting me behind this Eagles fan. But, yeah, I mean, right now, I know we didn't crown too early. And I'm going to say one word that you've always said, his composure. His composure blends with Terry's composure, and the composure that he has playing football. This is the one thing that you worry about when you see rookie quarterbacks play. So he showed elite composure from week one. And then the fact that he goes into games unshaken, unrattled as a rookie is the thing that's going to hold him over from year 1 through year 15. And all we need to do as a team, as usual, and as we did, you build around him. You get you a left tackle, you build a running game, and you structure the team around this guy who shows this elite composure. It's a nuance in football, just like it is in basketball. We've seen how basketball, the tides have turned, and basketball where it used to be a big man's league. NFL used to be a running league.
Yep.
Now we have, now we went to the point where these quarterbacks who can process and who can make plays with their legs on 3rd and 6 and on 3rd and 7, and even to the point where now we're watching football where the 4th down is no longer just an automatic punt. So this is everything is geared around him being
the game's
great,
changed, and he's perfect for it.
Yeah, exactly. We hit the lottery. I'm so happy. I ain't gonna lie to you. I can't wait till the season starts. I'm over here smiling right now thinking about it.
Thanks, Rob. Appreciate the call. Yeah, I think, I didn't sit here and keep track of it, but I would say the majority think that we have spoken about Jayden Daniels. We have ranked him in a way that's appropriate after what we saw last year. So we have, hence not crowned him too early. 1 year was, it had to be an all-time special year, and it was. I can just see October coming if they're like 1-4 and he's thrown 8 picks with 3 touchdowns. Oh my God. The I told you so crowd will come out, but remember, let's not forget, they don't exist now. You guys know some of the callers we have only come out when they're right, and never come out when they're wrong. If he doesn't have a great season, trust me, people we've never heard of will be claiming, remember, I told you back in July that he was going to have a terrible year and that the rookie year was not, who he really was. Let's remember, nobody called in and said that, and nobody has called in and said that. But trust me, if he starts off poorly, we'll have plenty of those callers with very convenient memories, delusional memories to boot when we get there. All right. There was news yesterday on uniforms. I'll talk about that next. Andrew Brandt will join us at 12. And then my conversation with Mark Ein, one of the key members of ownership, you will hear that at about 12:25. Kevin Sheehan Show, the Team 980, theteam980.com. We are also live on our YouTube channel. Like us and subscribe to us when you get there. I do want to mention that Window Nation is offering right now a great deal, and it's the perfect time of the year to get it. If you've been hot the last week and a half in your home because your air conditioner isn't keeping your home cool enough, you've got older windows that need to be replaced. Give Window Nation a shot. 866-90Nation, windownation.com. It's all I'm asking you to do is just call them and have them come out and give you an estimate. It's free. It's fast. You'll find out which windows in your home actually need to be replaced, and then you can make the decision as to whether or not you want to move forward with them. But right now, 50% off on all window styles with no interest charged for 5 years. So you won't be paying interest until the year 2030. They'll be in and out of your home, installing your home windows, your new windows in a day or less with a crew that averages 16 years of installation experience. 866-90Nation, windownation.com, 50% off on all window styles and 5 years without paying interest. Schedule your fast, free estimate right now. 866-90Nation, windownation.com.
All right, former Phoenix Sun DeAndre Ayton signed a 2-year deal with the Los Angeles Lakers after being bought out by the Portland Trailblazers. Clayton Kershaw hits 3,000 strikeouts against the Chicago White Sox last night. He becomes the fourth left-handed pitcher to reach that milestone. And the Nats, they split yesterday's doubleheader with the Detroit Tigers following the first game which was a disaster right from the jump. The Nats down 10 runs after 4 innings. The second game, Nats showed a little bit of life late in the 8th inning after they tallied 6 runs to give them a 9-4 lead to close out the game. Tonight, they close out the series against the aforementioned Detroit Tigers. First pitch is at 6:45 on the Fan. Nats on deck with Charlie and Dave at 6:15. This update is sponsored by the Team 980 YouTube page. Just open the app, type in the Team 980, hit subscribe. Kevin Sheehan is live from 10 to 1 and Craig Hoffman from 4 to 7. Don't forget to like the streams and turn on notifications to stay up to date on all things DC sports. And that is what's trending.
So yesterday, the team put out a tweet that read, "New alternates unveiled in 1 week." There was a picture of a silhouetted player in uniform with July 9 written over top of the helmet of the silhouetted player. July 9 would have been a week from yesterday. That's when they are going to unveil their alternate uniforms for next year. Now, everybody has pointed out that in that silhouetted picture, you can see the W on the helmet. A couple of things real quickly. Number one, this is a tweet that right now, as I'm looking at it, has 774,000 views. Now, I went back basically over the last month and a half to look for kind of average views for a tweet. And the only tweet that I could find that was anywhere even close to it, and it's only at about a half, the number was 360,000 views. And that was the tweet that the team put out extending their sympathies and condolences for the loss of Fred Smith, a former minority shareholder. Now, why did that particular tweet get 360,000 views? Well, most of you can guess the answer for that. Fred Smith and Federal Express were certainly at the forefront of the name going away back in the summer of July 20th. I bring this up because, like, the average tweet view count for the Commanders account in a typical week is like 35,000 views. This has 774,000 and counting. Anybody that still will, especially, for people like me that will say, get off the name and the brand and the uniforms. Nobody cares. Nobody cares about that. They've moved on. We had a winning season, as if you can't do two things simultaneously. I enjoyed the winning season, and I also care about the name and the uniforms. But for those out there, and there are some dummies out there that clearly just are not in tune with the history, the tradition, and what the majority fans really and how they really feel, because they never felt it themselves. If you don't think 775,000 views, basically on average about 730,000, 40,000 views more than their average tweet. And the only other tweet that had any sort of real traction or hundreds of thousands of views was everybody screaming that they put something out about Fred Smith because he's the one people deem responsible for the loss of the name. You guys are out to lunch and have been out there for a long period of time. Now, with that said, people get excited about uniforms too. Part of it is just, hey, I want to see what their new alternates are. I, by the way, liked the black alternate uniforms. I thought they looked better in black because I can't stand the white jerseys with the cranberry colors. I can't stand that. That just doesn't look anything like my team. So we're going to see what the alternates look like in a week. And as I first said all the way back in October of last year, and I don't have an update since then, we've talked about it on occasion, and people have thought that it was like an update. What I said back in October is what I still believe to be true. They told me in October, I had a good source, multiple, that told me that the alternates in 2025 were going to be uniforms that were more, sort of similar to the traditional uniforms for all of those years. Now, I know many others have come out and said the same thing, and there are websites, sports logo websites that have come out and kind of reported the same thing. I can only tell you what I told you in October, I think before anybody else did, that while the name was still in flux in the moment in terms of the conversation about it, they were definitely going to do something about the uniforms. They were going to make the uniforms look like the team that we rooted for 50 plus years, not like what we've seen since February of 2022, that horrific put together, rebranding of the team. And so I'm anxious to see what it's going to look like too. The only other thing that was told to me at the time that I asked about was the logo, and they said the logo is going to, more likely than not have some place in the franchise, but it might not be on the uniform or on the helmet. And, we know as fans that the logo has never been a source of controversy. No one's ever said the logo is racist. The logo is insensitive. No one's ever said that. So I'd love to see the logo come back and be slapped on the helmet. But with the name Commanders, does it really fit? I don't know what we'll see next Wednesday. I'm not a big uniform guy. Many of you know stripes and this was on this uniform. I'm not that guy. I just told you what I knew, and that is Mitch Rales and Josh Harris and Mark Ein and guys like that who not only own the team now but have been lifelong fans want to pay homage to that history. They feel the same way when they look at the uniforms. It doesn't look like the team that they grew up rooting for and then rooted for as adults. So we'll see what they look like in a week. I would expect that these alternates are going to be something that definitely looks and resembles something close to what they used to wear. And then, as I told you last October, the plan would be that eventually, whether it's 26 or 27, to perhaps make next year's alternate something more permanent. We'll see. Remember, they go out in their uniforms that they wore last year, except for the alternate dates, and they win another 12 games and another 2 or 3 or 4 playoff games. Ownership may change their mind. All right, up next, Andrew Brandt will join us. Mark Ein, my conversation with Mark next hour as well. Mark Ein later on this hour, he was on my podcast yesterday. I'm going to play that for you. I did ask him about the alternate uniforms, asked him about the stadium, talked a lot of tennis too. He's got probably the best field for the upcoming DC City Open in Rock Creek Park that he's had in a long time. Joining me right now, do we have Andrew? All right, good. Andrew Brandt is joining me right now, of course. Longtime executive in the NFL with the Packers. He's now the executive director of the Morad Center at Villanova. He's got a great Sunday 7 newsletter. You can find out all about all of this on X, on Twitter, at Andrew Brandt. He joins me right now. Real quickly, before I get to what I was calling you about, we just did a segment about Jayden Daniels, and sort of asking the question, have we gotten a little bit carried away? Have we crowned him a little bit too early after one season? Because it was debatably, and by many advanced numbers, the greatest rookie season a rookie quarterback's ever had. You were a longtime front office person, and you watch a lot of quarterback play. Have we gotten ahead of our skis calling Jayden Daniels an elite quarterback, a top 5-ish quarterback right now?
Good to be with you, Kevin. I mean, I'm obviously the opposite from my experience in the Green Bay Packers, where we had apprentice quarterbacks that didn't see the field for 3 years.
Right.
Unbelievable in this day and age, because you try to get young quarterbacks, especially first round, on the field first year, if not first game. Yeah, I mean, I think we're all going to overreact to a strong performance by a rookie quarterback. The obvious question is, can he keep it up? And even if there's not total ascension beyond this is high-level quarterback play. So, yeah, I mean, I think it's natural. There's nothing more exciting in the NFL than a young quarterback. And from a financial perspective, it's the best thing going in sports. We have someone making $6-7 million average compared to their peers making $50-60 million. So you can build around that, as the Commanders have done, in adding offensive linemen and adding Debo and seeing what they're going to do with McLaurin. So they have a way to stagger this. And they got one more year of this, which is amazing. So they'll have 3 years of quarterback play at a staggeringly low rate.
Yeah, you know, the first time they can pay him is in the offseason after the 2027 season. You follow this stuff. I would guess right now the odds are stacked heavily in favor of Jayden Daniels in the winter or spring of 2027 getting the largest contract in the history of the sport at that time.
Yeah, if we're handicapping it right now, you'd have to say that. A lot can happen between now and then.
Sure.
But again, to my point, if he's making, say, $70 million then, you know, say it's $70 million over 5, he's made $30 million over 4. So that's, I'm saying $30 million total over 4. So that's what, $7-8 million a year, you know, combined with $70 million a year. It's still going to be a value, right? Is what I'm trying to say. Is like, even after 2 years of his extension contract, he's still going to be a great value for the last 5 years if we're spinning this ahead.
You know, I was just thinking in having you on, because you've dealt with stadiums, you follow it now, you know, for your role as the executive director at the Morad Center at Villanova. Are you following the RFK deal situation down here? You're from here. I'm assuming you're paying attention to it at least a little bit.
Well, this is what happens. I think we talked about this last time I was on, Kevin. You get this great announcement. You have the president, you have Roger Goodell, you have the Josh Harris, you have Mayor Bowser. Everybody's excited. It's such a great event. You have the big headlines, and then the real work starts, right? Are you going to get this passed? Where's the money coming from? What taxes? What funds? What public subsidy is this coming from? And all the opposition. Why are we subsidizing billionaires? What about schools and libraries and homeless and shelters? Of course you're going to get that. So I don't know what to say about it other than the history shows, and I have done a lot of writing and research on this, is that at the end of the day, it passes. The public funds these billionaires. I know everyone hates it, but it happens. Except for SoFi Stadium and Gillette Stadium in Boston, basically that's what happens. And in recent times, we just had it in Cleveland. We recently had it in Jacksonville. Of course, we had it in Buffalo and Tennessee and Nevada a few years ago. I think it's going to happen because I think at the end of the day, even if there's no true threat to move, no one wants to be the people that stop public funding of a stadium.
Yeah. We are talking to Andrew Brandt. All right. To the reason that I reached out to you, the other day, you tweeted out off a Ross Dellinger story, 82% of all D1 schools opted into the settlement, which is the House settlement, for, a $20.5 million salary cap coming off, the conference revenues. And you wrote, wow, sports are truly the storefront of these universities. So what's changed more than anything else with this House settlement?
Well, a lot of unpacking here. As people probably know by now, July 1st, 2 days ago, was the first day in the history of college sports that schools can pay directly. Not collectives, not boosters, not bagmen, not under the table, not to the mom, to the friend, to the uncle. It is direct payments. And again, full disclosure, I'm a consultant now in this space a little bit. I consult for Louisville Athletics. I wrote a contract the past several months between the school and the athletes directly. So it's direct. There's no shenanigans anymore. So this is happening, and there'll be a revenue share cap of $20.5 million for all sports, and people have to manage the cap and do contracts just like pro sports. My point is that $20.5 million sounds like a lot. You don't have to spend that amount, but you can now spend if you opt in. In other words, pay your athletes directly. If you don't opt in, you're in the old system. If the athletes are going to get paid, it's going to be through other sources besides the school. But that number was staggering to me because we focus on the big power conferences. This is a lot more than the power conferences.
Right.
This is mid-majors, maybe low majors, maybe even lower than that. And again, they're not going to pay $20 million, a lot of these schools, but they're going to pay. And my point was just like we're making the point about the Commanders. At the end of the day, sports rules. And I've seen this time and time again. You talk about we need money for X, Y, Z. But listen, your chemistry department is not going to draw a lot of publicity or students or admissions or donors. It's just not. Your sports department is. It's just the way we are in this world, and especially in college, because that's exactly the phrase I use. They're the storefront.
Yeah.
You look at University of Maryland, you look at Georgetown, any school. Yes, the academics is great and important and definitely something for alumni to talk about. But what's the sports doing? That's what people know these schools for. People don't know Alabama for their academics. Now, a Duke, a Virginia, a Stanford, I get it. But even with that, they talk about the sports teams.
Well, look, the number of applicants goes up exponentially when a team does well in the NCAA tournament or the college football playoff. I mean, sports, yes, that's the exposure for a university more so than anything else. I know you're tight on time. Max just told me that. I just wanted to ask this as it relates to the salary cap, because to me, this is the most interesting thing. By the way, 82.1% is beyond the Power Four. That is surprising to me.
Yeah.
But after they've said, all right, 70% is going to football, 20% is going to basketball, 5% to women's basketball, and then 5% to everything else. Let's just take 70% as a round number of 20 million, $14 million to football. How will they determine who gets what? And will those players have to sign contracts?
Yes, I think the determination, some of these schools, and this is pretty common now, are hiring GMs. You talk about Mike Lombardi at North Carolina.
Yep.
A lot of NFL experience, Jim Nagy at Oklahoma football. And they're doing exactly what you do in the NFL. Like, what's our allocation at quarterback, at D-line, at shutdown corner? We're going to spend a lot there. What are we doing at receiver? How much are we spending allocating that number? And a lot of what I do in my consulting is advising on that too. And sometimes it's like, let's hold our powder for next year because we think we can get this recruit. Just like they say in pro sports, we think we get a free agent that's going to cost a lot of money. And then, schools have to decide. Some schools are going to be a little more basketball heavy. So instead of a $14 million football roster, it'll be a 10, 11 and basketball.
Right, like Villanova.
$6 million roster. Yeah. Well, Villanova is separate because Big East doesn't have big-time football. So theoretically, Big East schools can spend 15, 18 million on basketball. Now, none are, but I would think St. John's is going to have a 10 to 11, $12 million basketball roster. So it's just something that people have to get used to. I know it's hard to hear sometimes, millions of dollars for college athletes, but that's where we are. I'll say this, the pendulum has truly swung. And you mentioned contracts. Yes, they have contracts, but trying to get these guys to sign more than 1 year is a tough sell because they've got transfer rights every year. And schools don't want to be locked into 2-year deals because they know they'll get better transfers if they want. So it's all 1-year deals right now. And that's working for the players and the schools. I know it's tough for fans because you're seeing a new team every year in all these sports. Maybe the pendulum will swing some more towards the middle soon.
And lastly, NIL is still there, right? But it's going to be more regulated?
Yeah. You can do third-party NIL beyond the school contracts. Anything over $600 has to go to something called the College Sports Commission for Fair Market Value Analysis to try to get rid of the, hey, show up at birthday party, get an envelope for $100,000. It's going to try to get rid of that. Now, a lot of people are saying, well, they're going to sue and that'll go away quickly. Well, there's arbitration built in, so there won't be lawsuits. But if a player is dinged and says you can't do that deal, there's an arbitration process. Listen, the NCAA gets a lot of flack. I think they're doing the best they can. Yes. Is there going to be cheating? Yes. Is there going to be attempted cheating? Yes. Are there going to be rosters, our teams, schools spending not 20 million, but 40 million? Because 20 of it will be this supplemental NIL, perhaps. But they're doing the best they can to try to level this playing field.
Thanks for doing this. Good to catch up. Go ahead and run, and we'll catch up down the road. Thanks, Andrew.
Appreciate it, Kevin. Take care.
Yeah, Andrew Brandt, everybody, at Andrew Brandt on X on Twitter. Yeah, $20.5 million is a salary cap for, Power 4 schools and beyond that. At the Power 4 schools in the SEC, Big 12, Big 10, 70 to 75% of that is going to football, because that's where most of the money is coming from the football TV deals. And then, the next 15 to 20% is going to go to men's basketball. And then there's going to be like 5 to 10% max divvied up among, depending on the school. They're, in the SEC, you've got baseball, in the, Big Ten and certainly the East Coast Big Ten schools, you've got lacrosse, you've got women's basketball. And then for a football team that's got 90 players on it, some aren't going to make any money. Now, that's been happening anyway. But you're going to have this salary cap. There's not going to be any minimum. There's no salary minimum for players. Some players will be playing and won't be making any money until they've proven themselves. And what we didn't get into is with contracts rather than independent contractors, what kind of sort of organization will come about, meaning union. And that I don't think anybody wants, and perhaps not even on either side. And then the NIL piece, yes, it's more regulated, but it's still there. The collectives are still there. But he said, what did he say? $600. Anything above that has to go to some sort of regulatory group that will determine fair market value, whether or not what the player is doing for that amount over $600, if it's appropriate. So, yeah, you won't get if you come here and play, all you got to do is sign autographs at the car dealership once, and we're paying you $1 million for the year. So we'll see how that shakes out, because in places within the Power Four conferences, Ohio State, Texas, Bama, we know the list. They're still going to have massive NIL collectives that will be able to, fund football beyond the salary cap, the 20.5 or 75% of that, 70% of that. And so there will still be advantages there, even though there is a cap. And one of the things I've learned by reading about this is, even though there is a salary cap, a lot of schools won't spend up through that salary cap because they're not going to be able to afford to do it. Anyway, interesting. We talked about this last year. The players in college sports have had something that no athletes have had ever in the history of sports. They have had annual, and in some cases almost biannual, unrestricted free agency. And with the transfer pool, it's just created absolute bedlam in terms of movement. And at the same time, when the games start, college football, Labor Day weekend, and high noon on Fox, Texas with Arch Manning at Ohio State, I get wrapped up into the games and I forget about all this, because it is still, especially with football, it's still part of this incredible, built-in advantage over every other sport, this rhythm and this scheduled nature of the fall into winter, weekends, and a limited number of games, and how important and how precious each one of those games are. Even with NIL and all the transfers over the last couple of years, I don't think I have enjoyed college football any less. College basketball, you get to the tournament, and let's face it, college basketball has become a very much so a 1 month out of the calendar sport, especially at football schools. But still, we get to the tournament, it's the tournament, man. Doesn't matter that you don't recognize or haven't recognized a lot of the players on the teams. For me, anyway, the thing that's impacted my viewing of college sports more than anything else, and we're now 20 years in the making on this, is all of the conference reshuffling. That's the thing that I think hurts long-time devoted college sports fans. Because, I can only speak for myself, being in the ACC all those years, and you develop that history, the tradition, the rivalries, and then, 10 years now in the Big Ten, and we don't have a rivalry in any sport. Mark Ein will join me next. Mark Ein joins me right now. Of course, Mark is part of our football team's ownership group. Mark was instrumental in helping Josh Harris put together the team and the group of limited partners that bought the team nearly 2 years ago. We're coming up on the 2-year anniversary of the sale of the team. Mark is a local. He's a born and raised Washingtonian, grew up in Chevy Chase, went to BCC, went to Wharton after that, I think Harvard Business School after that. I'm not sure. I've got all of your degrees here, but Mark is a pretty smart guy and has been one of the region's most impactful entrepreneurs for over 3 decades. He is also the owner and has been for quite some time now of the very successful City Open tennis tournament, which begins 2 weeks from Saturday with qualifying play down in Rock Creek Park. We'll get to the tennis in a moment because I want to talk some tennis with you, and I know you love talking tennis, but it's coming up on 2 years. I mean, late July 2023, when that deal finally got done. And I know, because you've told me this before, that this was a deal that was never done until it actually was done. Take me back 2 years ago and give me a story or a memory or two of those final weeks leading up to the sale.
My biggest memory of 2 years ago right now is how tired I was. How tired we all were. It was a really, really long 7-month process that was kind of 24/7. Every night we would do Zooms, kind of starting at 10. On a good day, they'd end at midnight. They often went to 1 a.m., sometimes later, just reviewing everything that we had to do and the issues that came up. And it was not easy, but was it worth it? It was totally worth it, especially as we sit here now 2 years later and just see how energized our community is and how much the fans are back in love with their franchise. It made all that hard work really worth it.
I'm pretty sure I've asked you this before, but was there a moment, I forget if it was Josh who mentioned this or someone else who mentioned it. It may have been you, and sorry if I'm being repetitive, but that there was a moment very late in the process before Snyder finally, officially accepted the deal, signed the term sheet, whatever it was at the very end, where it looked like you guys weren't going to get the team, that he had changed his mind. Is that true?
I mean, I think there was lots of moments through the process, even fairly deep in the process, where I don't know if it was him changing his mind, but it was more just at an impasse on something significant. And it was not a certainty that it would happen. That happened a number of times and deep into the process. Those are when you test, those are when you test yourself. And, I know we're going to talk about tennis. I went through the same thing, kind of saving the tennis tournament for our community because it was going to get bought and moved. And it was the same thing. You go into these things and think this isn't something important. This is something impactful, something I want to do. But they're never ever easy. And both of them actually were quite challenging at moments.
All right, let's talk some tennis. The Mubadala City DC Open gets underway 2 weeks from Saturday with qualifying, and then 2 weeks from this coming Monday with the main draw. It's become a staple event in this town during the month of July, and a staple on the ATP and WTA, both the men's and the women's summer circuit. I was checking out the field that you have so far announced on the website. Correct me if I'm wrong, but this seems to me to be one of the best, deepest, and maybe biggest name fields you've ever had.
I think in terms of depth and breadth, I mean, at least in any recent memory and anyone who's followed the tournament, I think it's the best. We have 7 top 10 players across so far. In what we've announced, 7 top 10 players across both tours, the top 9 American men, 5 former Grand Slam champions, 2 former number ones, and then just some of the players that don't qualify for what I just said, but people love to see, like Nick Kyrgios and Gael Monfils and Kei Nishikori. And then the other thing, Kevin, that's happening is, for people following Wimbledon, is there's a lot of early upsets of top players. Right. And we've been getting a steady stream of calls of players who are now saying, I actually want to seriously think about coming to DC. So I'm pretty sure you're going to see some additional pretty significant names added to that list here.
How have you made that happen when you and I both know there was a period of time where it wasn't the best of dates? The weather was always considered for many players to be brutally hot and not worth it. What changed?
I'd love to take credit for we changed the weather. But I think that's obviously a given. As you said, you were a ball kid. I was a ball kid. Then I was a fan. I came every year. When I came as a fan, I was frustrated because I knew this is a really important tournament. It was the only ATP 500 in America. It was one of the big tournaments in the world, but the fan experience just was not very good. And if you weren't in the VIP tent, there was nowhere indoor or air conditioned to go.
Right.
The food was served by the same vendor who does the concessions in the park, which, are fine for the basics, but not what you want when you're going to be out there all day and coming every day. And I'd say the same thing happened was the same general experience for the players. And so the biggest thing we did was just make a complete commitment to transform the experience for everyone who touches the event, starting with fans, second players, also sponsors and media even. Because in the end of the day, the thing about a tennis tournament, it's not 1 2-hour game. It's a week. And if you give people a good experience, they're going to come 5, 6, 7 hours and they'll come back day in and day out. And if you're a player, you're spending 5, 6, 7 hours. If you're covering the event, you are. And I feel like you have a real responsibility to make it great. And we have. Obviously, now there's all kinds of amazing venues, indoor air conditioned. There's a tequila bar, a grill, a frosé terrace overlooking the side courts. This year we have 7 Michelin star chefs, and then Ben's Chili Bowl and Duke's Groceries and King Street Oil, like the best of DC, and then fun drinks. And so what's happened, Kevin, is obviously you see it on the player side. It has now become an event that people really want to come to. And I'd say even off-site, we put them up in a fantastic hotel. They stay at the Salamander. They love that, being downtown. We've upgraded the transportation. And so word gets around, this is a really great event to play in. And that is just a big event. We also upgraded it on the women's side from a 250 to a 500. So it's the 5th biggest tournament in the United States. It's one of only 10 tournaments in the world that have men and women together at this level.
Right.
And as a result, fans and players all want to be there.
Duke's Grocery, by the way, a hell of a burger. I mean, really, really good burger. Francis Tiafoe, he played really well in Paris. He lost today in the second round at Wimbledon. What do you think he's capable of? Do you see him being an eventual Grand Slam champion, something, we haven't had in terms of an American male since Roddick back in 2003?
I think any given tournament, Francis could win it. And you just have to look back at the U.S. Open last year. He was up 2-1 on serve against Taylor Fritz in the 4th set, deep at 5-6.
Yeah.
So if he holds serve, you're playing a tiebreaker to get into the finals. Obviously, I think it was against Carlos. That's tough, but Francis played Carlos really well a bunch of times. So I think any given week he can win the tournament. The challenge is, and it's not just Francis. Look how many upsets been at Wimbledon of top players. Is the game is so deep, and if you go and you watch the players practicing, you can't tell the difference between the 50th best player in the world and the 4th. You can't. Like on a practice court, they hit the ball the same. What the difference is what happens in the match, how you deal with pressure, and if you can keep your level, not have letdowns, especially on the men's side, because if you have a little mental breakdown, you lose your serve, and then you lose the set, and then you're probably going to lose the match. And so a lot of it is just about that consistent week in and week out and within the matches. And Francis has proven he can do it, but it's a challenge for everyone. That's the hard part. And what makes the top guys is that they always bring that level of intensity every match, every week. But Francis certainly has the talent, ability, and desire to win a Grand Slam or any tournament he's in.
What kind of chance do you give Ben Shelton of winning a Grand Slam?
High. I mean, you can't. Someone with that serve,
yeah,
you can never bet against. He similarly was in the U.S. Open 2 years ago. So he's been knocking on doors. I mean, these aren't theoretical. These guys are making the semis of Grand Slams. And with Ben's serve, I was at a bit of his match in Paris against Alcaraz. That was incredible, and that's on clay, not his best surface, and he was right there. So Ben's another one. Taylor Fritz is 5 in the world, and that's one of the things about the tournament this year. You have all top 9 American men, and you've got 3 in the top. I think you have 3 in the top 10. Yeah, you do. You have Ben, Tommy Paul, and Taylor, and then right behind is Francis at 12.
Yep.
So American tennis is in a good place, and I was on the board of the USTA, the U.S. Tennis Association, for 6 years, and when the whole program turned around, and the whole theory was like, you just kind of have to flood the zone and just try to get enough players in the top 10 or around the top 10, and then you just hope someone makes a breakthrough either at a tournament or just in general. And they've done a great job. Same on the women's side. There's 3 women in the top 10. So, and Madison Keys won the Australian Open.
Yep.
So, American tennis is in a good place. To get to legendary icon status, the way Roger, Rafa, Novak, or now Carlos or Yannick. I mean, those guys are freaks of nature. That it's very hard, very hard to train that. You either bring it or you don't. And hopefully one day we'll have an American like that too.
Who's the greatest men's tennis player of all time? You get asked this, I'm sure, a lot, and I think it's a really good debate. Who's the greatest that's ever done it?
I mean, I think the greatest, if you have to, is Novak, only because he's won the most. And then if there's any debate about all, previous generations of players, Novak did that when you also had Roger and Rafa. So you have to say how many Grand Slams would he have won if he didn't have those two. I don't think Roger had the biggest impact. I mean, Novak had the biggest impact on the sport out of those 3. I'd argue in different ways it's Roger and Rafa. They both did it, and then
you're saying that Novak did not have the biggest impact that
no,
Nadal
no,
Federer. Yeah,
no.
I agree with that. Yeah,
no. I think Roger, in his way, brought something that captured people's imagination. Rafa did his, and then there have been other players over the years who had impact. But if you just say who's the greatest player, it's hard to argue with Novak given what he won and who he had to beat to win those events.
Do you have a favorite all-time player?
I am not going to cop out. I don't. I feel blessed. I love Rafa, and I love when he came here and got to spend a lot of time with him, a lot of time. And I just think he is unbelievable. I mean, the humility he has for what he's accomplished is extraordinary, and his kindness. It's actually amazing. A great lesson on how kind you can be off the field and how vicious you can be on. It's unbelievable. In the later years of Roger's career, I made sure to, whenever I could, see him live, because just the grace with which he played was unbelievable. And so, I love both those guys in different ways. I admire Novak a lot. He's actually a really good guy. And then, honestly, Kevin, I've been friends with Francis since he was 5 or younger. Friends with the family, and I love that kid so much, and he does such an amazing job representing the DMV, representing the American dream, and I really want him to have breakthroughs. I'd love to. I know he wants to win DC so bad. That would be super cool, but I'm always rooting for Francis wherever he's playing.
MubadalaCityDCOpen.com for all information, including tickets. By the way, I noticed you've got Kyrgios here as a featured player. I know he's won it twice. He's not playing singles, is he, right now?
That's the plan. He's signed in. And actually, interestingly, without getting into nuances of tennis, he has a limited number of what's called protected ranking, where you can say, I was injured, and you can use your ranking. But you only have a limited number of those. You can use your ranking before you got injured. He used one of those to enter the singles in DC. I was texting him last week about the doubles, actually. And we all love it when Nick comes. He's won the tournament twice. He lights up the crowd. He brings so much to the game, and I'm really hoping he's here both for singles and doubles.
He's excellent as an analyst. I mean, I think he's definitely that's his future, don't you think?
Yeah, that and other things. I mean, he's obviously a big personality, and he's got he's got a lot of really interesting points of view. And to a lot of kids, Kevin, he's the most compelling player. I mean, he is compelling to young people, and I think I agree with you. He's got a great tennis mind, and he's very authentic, and I think he's great. And then what a treat when Andre commentated.
He was
the French.
excellent.
That
yeah.
guy.
It was great.
That guy's insights about the game are extraordinary. So, but we love Nick, and hopefully Nick's going to be here along with all the others. It's really going to be a memorable week. And I don't usually come on and try to talk about tickets. I will tell you we're almost sold out. So, and I do think we're going to have more big announcements. So, the other great thing is just this event now is sold out for the last 4.5 years. It'll for sure again. And I'm just grateful for our tennis community in town. People here are incredible, and now they have the tournament they deserve.
It's been a great tennis community for so many years, which you've been a big part of, and it is a great event. It's a first-class event to go to, that's for sure. By the way, I think you talked about how young people like Kyrgios. I think the most dramatic week in tennis in the last few years was his second week at Wimbledon in what year was that? Is that 2 years ago or 3 years ago now, where he got to the final?
2 or 3.
Yeah.
2 or 3. I can't remember. Yeah, that was extraordinary. And look, this is just personal opinion, but Nick obviously often, he kind of goes a little off the rails. I think sometimes he thinks that's helpful for him, and maybe it's helpful for disrupt rhythm. What people forget is he played straight up and focused Nick Kyrgios tennis, and he won the first set against Djokovic.
Yeah.
He won it. And then, he got a little off the rails, and it was, Novak totally kept his calm, and it kind of distracted Nick. I've often thought, if he just stuck to the tennis in that match, I think he might have been able to win it. And I mean, he won that first set. And look, when Nick Kyrgios is serving well, he just takes the racket out of him. There's nothing you can do about it. And I tell you, Kevin, just for tennis fans, the single greatest match, I wasn't there, I've ever seen someone play is Nick played Rafa in Cincinnati like 5 years ago, and he beat him literally 2-4, 3-2. He literally Rafa serves and Nick is smacking it back unreturnable. When that guy's on, his level of talent is unmatched. Yeah.
The talent's never been in question. I mean, it's the same way. I mean, McEnroe obviously won 7 majors, right? 7 or 8. But the talent was unmistakable. The hands, all-time great hands, but it was a lot of the other stuff that got in the way. Kyrgios is similar, had a similar career without all of the majors.
Totally. I mean, yeah. You're right. There's a lot of similarities there. And, the interesting thing about John, who I've gotten to know, and he's also a really smart guy who
really smart.
Has done great in the art world. He's one of the great commentators, very versatile guy. Is when he would play senior tennis tournaments, he would do the same thing. People thought it was an act. It wasn't an act.
No.
It was who he was. But it's part of his authenticity. But look, it's one of the. I obviously love this sport, and one of the reasons I love this sport is because you have these amazing characters, and they're not wearing helmets, and they're not on a team. You get them in their full glory to watch them, and I think it's one of the things that makes the sport so compelling is the personalities and the matchups and the fact that you get to see it all right in front of your eyes.
Yeah, McEnroe's probably my all-time favorite athlete, and Serena, in terms of that sport in this century, was my favorite to watch, and personalities have a lot to do with it. All right, you mentioned, 2 years ago, there were Zooms that started at 10 and would go until 1 or 2 in the morning. Do you guys wish that's what the city council was doing right now to get this deal understood and voted on?
Oh, Kevin, I don't want to get into the politics of it and what's happening there. And obviously there's lots of people talking about that and pontificating. I think the team's done an amazing case laying out why this makes a ton of sense for the city. You have not heard virtually any member of the city council saying they don't want this to happen. And so I believe I believe the right outcome's gonna end up happening here.
Was it a productive night the other night at dinner in Georgetown?
I don't know what you're talking about, Kevin.
Well, this is a big topic, obviously. And it's a big topic because this is what everybody wants. You want it. You just said the city council wants it. The mayor wants it.
Yeah.
The recent polling indicated that, the city's residents, of which you're one and I'm one, want it, which is unusual, by the way, because typically, any tax dollars going to a stadium is not, a majority opinion in terms of approval. So your best guess right now, two-part question, does it get done and by when?
I think this gets done. When? I think it needs to happen. It needs to happen sooner than later. It does. But I think it ends up getting done, and I think that's what everyone's marching towards. And we talked about whether it was the Commanders process or when I bought the tennis tournament and stopped it from moving out of town or any of the other things like this. These things are all a process. They have their ups and downs. But most of the time when there's a will, the right outcome happens, and I believe that's what's going to happen here.
You said you hope it's sooner rather than later. Is there a point where it becomes too late?
I mean, eventually there's a time when it comes too late, but I'm not in a position to talk about dates or anything. We have our team, who talks about that stuff, and they have their strategy that they're executing, but working collaboratively with the government to try to get this done in a way that everyone feels good about. I mean, that's really what everyone's trying to do. Everyone's trying to get this done in a way that everyone feels good about.
All right, let's finish it up with one more, and it's one of your favorites. Actually, it's not. I'm not going to ask you about the name today, but I am going to ask you about uniforms because the team, and you know how important this stuff is to the majority of fans, both past and present, name, branding, uniforms, etc. But the team, if you didn't see it, Mark, earlier, put out a tweet saying new alternates, as in alternate uniforms, to be unveiled in 1 week. So are you willing to give us a hint as to what we might see a week from today?
No.
just one thing, because
I honestly, I can't, and I'm not even, I wish I was going to be in the country, but I'm going over to Wimbledon to try to round up our last players and make sure everyone's feeling excited to come to DC. So I'm going to be following it from afar. But, one of the things, it's more than one. The thing that I feel the best about, Kevin, for this franchise is the leadership that's been put in place. I give Josh a lot of credit for really spearheading the recruiting of Adam and Dan Quinn on the field, and now Mark Klaus as our CEO. And people probably have, the CEO is a little bit more behind the scenes, and he only started at the beginning of the year, but this guy's incredible. And he's a brand guy. The reason I bring it up, he's a brand guy. He ran Campbell's Soup. He ran lots and lots of some of the best consumer brands in the world. He fully understands brands and customers. And I think our fans are going to be so thrilled to see what happens over the coming years with our brand and how we relate to our fans. And we couldn't have picked a better leader than Mark to lead that and lead the team.
Well, for him and for Josh, because I know he's said this, or he's certainly implied this in the past, that, what you do with respect to sort of the branding of the team will, pay homage to the past. It will, certainly that the history and the tradition of the team, you guys recognize how important that is to everybody, and it's important to you guys too. So is whatever, Mark and others are planning, is it something that you can at least say ties into the past?
I honestly, Kevin, I cannot talk about it at all. But we know how much this stuff means to people. And we are so focused on rebuilding our connection between our fan base in this franchise. I think we've come a long way in 2 years, and I think in the coming years, it's just going to continue to grow and build.
Thank you for doing this. As always, have a good trip over there, and congrats on the field so far. And I can't wait to see what the additional announcements are before it happens. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks. Look forward to seeing you there, Kevin. And hopefully, everyone in our community comes out. If you love tennis, you'll love it, and if you just love a fun night out in the summer, come out and check out the tournament. I appreciate you, Kevin. Thanks.
That was Mark Ein. Appreciate him too, spending time with me yesterday. He is off to Wimbledon, and we'll see the uniform a week from yesterday. The alternate uniform. I think I can certainly wait. I know some of you can't. I'm fine waiting until Wednesday. He was not going to tell us exactly what it looked like, obviously. All right. Oh, I know what I want to finish up the show with, and we'll do that when we come back. But Marcus Mariota was interviewed yesterday in Hawaii and explained why he decided to re-sign with Washington and come back in 2025. I'll tell you what he said when we return. Kevin Sheehan Show, the Team 980 and the team980.com.
All right, last night, DeAndre Ayton signed a 2-year deal with the Los Angeles Lakers, and as well in Los Angeles, Clayton Kershaw notched his 3,000th strikeout last night against the Chicago White Sox. He becomes the 4th left-handed pitcher to reach that milestone, and the Nats split yesterday's doubleheader with the Detroit Tigers. The first game, a disaster right off the jump, with the Nats down 10 runs after just 4 innings. And the second game, Nats showed a little bit of life late in the 8th inning, tallying 6 runs and giving them the 9-4 lead to close out the game. Tonight, they close out the series against the Detroit Tigers. First pitch at 6:45 on the Fan. Nats on deck with Charlie and Dave at 6:15. This update is sponsored by the Team 980 YouTube page. Just open the app, type in the Team 980, hit subscribe. Kevin Sheehan is live from 10 to 1, and Craig Hoffman from 4 to 7. Don't forget to like the stream and turn on notifications to stay up to date on all things DC sports, and that is what's trending.
Marcus Mariota was at a golf tournament last week in Hawaii and was interviewed by Spectrum News. And he was asked a couple of questions about re-signing in Washington. Remember, he agreed to a 1-year, $8 million deal to once again come back and back up Jayden Daniels. He said about returning to Washington, quote, "For me, it was one of those things hard to pass up, and you want to go somewhere where you're wanted. And they were very adamant that they wanted me back for another year. I love Coach DQ and just Cliff and the offense, and for me, it was like a no-brainer. To stand here 11 years in, very, very few people get an opportunity to do that. So I'm thankful every day. And the ability to go into work and have fun, cut it loose, and have such a great quarterback room that makes it so much better too. I'm just kind of having fun with it, rolling with the punches, whatever comes. If they need me, I'm ready to play. Otherwise, I'm here for Jay, as in Jayden Daniels, and just making sure he's playing to his best of his ability." Mariota said that the franchise's resurgence followed, with this schedule where they're going to be playing a bunch of primetime games. And he said, quote, "I was very surprised at how big the fan base is. People had mentioned to me when I was going to sign there last year, it was kind of a sleeping giant of a fan base. They had such a great run in the 70s and 80s where teams or people across the country had really followed the Washington Commanders." Well, not really the Commanders, but Washington. Then you kind of went through this run that we did, and toward the end of the year, you start to see kind of how that fan base loves the team. And being in that area, the DMV, like it's cool. It's got like what people talk about. It's football, and they love it there. And I'm excited to see kind of what the turnout looks like, especially with our new owner and the kind of things they're doing with the franchise and the organization. With respect to Jayden Daniels, he said, quote, "The sky's the limit for Jayden. It was really unique for me because I felt like I was kind of reliving my career in a sense, where I was trying to help guide him through this in ways where maybe I made a mistake or where I could have been better. So it's kind of like reliving that all over again. That's the experience that was really fun for me. It was actually really rewarding. And to have someone like Jay, who's just an unbelievable dude off the field, too," closed quote. Marcus Mariota's had an interesting couple of years. The Atlanta ending was not pleasant. The year in Philadelphia where he, had major, he described it as anxiety and the yips, thought his career was over. And then this sort of, landed in his lap and has turned out to be a great thing. And we were talking for so much of the show today about Jayden Daniels and the support he got in the situation that he came into. Part of that was Mariota. Kingsbury was great for him. The coaching staff, Tavita Pritchard, David Blau, but Mariota was the one he probably mentioned unsolicited more than anybody else last year. All right, that is it for the day. That's it for the week. Happy July 4th. Back on Monday. Chris is next.